Central University. I'd like to welcome all of you to the 2016-17 Entrepreneurial Lecture Series. We're really excited about having lecture series back. We're back again, as strong as ever. The Entrepreneurial Lecture Series has a little bit of history and started back in 2008, 2007, 2008, and it's continued to grow. And I hope all of the colleges within the university will take advantage of this program. This series is excellent. We have some great speakers that EMPwr has developed for you. This is a student-driven event, and we're just delighted to have the event driven by the students of EMPwr, and Justin will explain more about what EMPwr is and how you can get involved. I just wanted to welcome you and encourage you to take advantage of all of the series for the fall semester. October 27th, Karen Evans will be speaking, and we also have a speaker on November the 17th, and you can learn more about this. We do have a flyer for all of you. So tell your friends, tell everyone about the lecture series. And without further ado, I want to bring Justin to the mic. And I also want to acknowledge Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity, and particularly Maz and Tony and the entire Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity for all of the work that's been done behind the scenes as well, because I know they work very closely with us to help make this event possible. So, Justin, this is all yours.
Thank you guys for coming out tonight. Welcome to the 2016 Entrepreneurial Lecture Series presented by EMPwr and Lawrence Tech. My name is Justin Becker, like I said. I'm one of the co-student leaders of EMPwr, and I will also be your host for tonight. Tonight's event is going to be an interactive event. We're also going to have an interactive polling system that in just a couple minutes we're going to have a link on the screen. So any questions that you guys want to ask, just go ahead on your phone or your computer. You can pull up the website and ask any question that you want. So to give a little background about EMPwr, what we're basically trying to do is teach students about the entrepreneurial mindset and how we can change the way they think to apply it to real-world problems and actually solve challenges in the world. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up our guest tonight, CEO of Shinola, Tom Lewand. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and show a quick video.
Welcome to Detroit, the new watchmaking capital of America, where a long-gone industry is beginning its ascent. Here, in 30,000 square feet of Midtown. Using steel, leather, and labor to make watches of quality that haven't been made this way in this country for more than 40 years. It's an effort to retake our place, out on the factory floor. It takes work to return to form, but we're up for it, starting with the reinvigoration of a storied American brand and of this storied American city. We are also crafting hand-built bicycles and leather goods made with hides from America's oldest working tannery. We are doing this because we believe in the beauty of industry, the glory of manufacturing. We know there's not just history in this town, there's a future. It's why we came. Creating a community that will thrive through excellence of craft and pride of work. Shinola, where American is made.
That's a pretty cool video there. So thanks for coming out tonight, Tom. I know you're really busy. I know we tried to schedule a meeting, but just starting a new company, it's pretty tough to do. So I know on behalf of all the students, we really appreciate you coming out.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
So before we get started with some questions, me and Tom were talking a little bit backstage, and he was really gracious enough to tell me that he brought a special gift for all of you guys. So underneath your chairs, we all have free Shinola watches. All right.
Setting me up for a big letdown.
All right, we'll jump right into it. So you spent 20 years with the Lions. You were president for 7 years. You served on like 6 or 7 boards in the city of Detroit. Ross School of Business Advisory Board, Mayor's Workforce Board. Why Shinola?
for a lot of different reasons, not the least of which is what the mission of Shinola is, and that's really to, as you heard in the video a little bit there, to celebrate the skills and talent that American workers have, particularly those here in Detroit. And the idea, the daring idea, the big idea, crazy idea that our founder, Tom Kartsotis, had to come to Detroit from Dallas, where he founded another company about 30 years ago called Fossil that also makes watches. But Tom had evolved in his cycle there to the point where he had taken the company public. It was worth about $6 billion in market cap at one point. And Tom transitioned out and decided that he wanted to do something with the proceeds of that venture that would have some greater social impact and really pursue some of his crazier ideas, his most deep-rooted entrepreneurial ideas. And he, through a lot of persistence and as he'll tell you, a lot of craziness, convinced a Swiss manufacturing partner of his from the Fossil days to go in on a venture with him here in Detroit and bring back a long dormant industry, doing some of the hardest manufacturing in the world, a skill that is passed down from generation to generation in Switzerland, and bring it here to Detroit and be able to compete at the highest levels of the global watch business. And I'm really pleased to say that we have. Our company has grown in 3 years from zero in revenue to this year over 100 million. To compare that to some other companies, it took Under Armour 8 years to get to 100 million. It took Lululemon 9 years to get to 100 million. It took Fossil, Tom's old venture, 9 years to get to 100 million. So we're pleased with how fast we've grown, but more importantly, we're pleased with how we've grown and the number of jobs we've created and the people who have helped build these fantastic watches and make our great leather right here in Detroit, and put that out to the world and have the world respond in the way that they have, or at least our country, not so much around the world yet, but we're getting there. But around the country, respond so positively to our story, to our people, and to our products.
So I pulled a quote off of the New York Times: is, "We build our goods to last, but of all the things we make, American jobs might be the thing we're most proud of."
Well, there's no question. I mean, one of the first days that I was at Shinola, before I'd even taken the job, I got a chance to walk around our factory. But we have both a watch factory where we build the watches and a leather factory where we manufacture all the straps, the leather straps, as well as all of our small leather goods, wallets, journal covers, those kinds of things. And now starting to do our own handbags. Right now, the backpacks and bags and some of those things, we use other American leather factories, all here in the United States, but partners to do that for us. We're continuing to see our men and women down at our factory grow in their skill level, and they've progressed from the straps to the small leather goods to now, as I said, the bags themselves, and we expect to continue to see that grow. So it is something that we're most proud of, being able to control the entire vertical of the business is pretty rare in this day and age. You look at some of the new entrepreneurial companies that are kind of taking the country by storm, the Warby Parkers of the world, and some of those newer companies, Bonobos apparel company, they're all manufacturing from third parties, most of the case overseas, and they're really a front-facing platform to sell direct to the consumer. We're a lot different than that. We're old school in the way we make stuff. We're old school in the way we sell it, but we're layering on some new school energy and ideas as we do that.
That's just awesome. So the mission statement of the company, so at Lawrence Tech, we're all about innovation, entrepreneurship. We have a lot of classes in that. All the engineering college is influenced by that. How does that mission statement kind of promote or influence innovation and entrepreneurship within your employees and with the company as a whole?
Well, it's I want to say it's part of our culture, but that would be an understatement. It's part of who we are on a daily basis, thinking up new ideas. And many of you may have seen the announcement we made 2 weeks ago about a hotel that we're building in downtown Detroit, right on Woodward, in partnership with Dan Gilbert and his development arm. But so doing something that's out of the norm, and the things that we're known for, watches and leather, maybe a little bit our bikes. We're going to unveil here in the coming months, specifically in November, our audio launch. So we will be in business of turntables to start, and next year headphones and speakers, and that is a completely different, really completely different business for us. It's not just, you can make the argument that watches and then leather and even jewelry, which we're also launching this fall, are all kind of in that fashion accessory vertical, and they have the same distribution systems or same distribution channels, similar manufacturing, similar sourcing. When you get into audio, it's a whole new world, and I'm often I often am concerned about not being anywhere near the smartest person in the room. Here tonight, I know I'm probably at the back of the line with all of the engineering and mathematical skill that we have in the room, and those are the skills that we need to build this audio line of products. But then we need that entrepreneurial spirit to get us into those new channels, to go from Neiman's and Nordstrom's as our wholesale partners to Best Buy and Magnolia and high-end audiophile shops. So it's in our DNA, it's who we are, and it's how we think every day.
So do you guys think you could put the headphone jack back in the iPhone?
Man, yeah, that one. I'm a huge Apple guy, and that was one that I couldn't get my arms around yet.
So I'm sure a lot of the students here are wondering if they're in the audio program or something, or even in manufacturing. How can some of the students here potentially, what do you look for in a student that you guys would hire, somebody coming right out of college?
Yeah, it's we're trying to grow and add jobs as quickly as we can. We have just about 550 employees in the company now. Of those, over 200 are in our factories in manufacturing, which leaves slightly over 300 in both our retail operations, our stores. We now have 19 stores around the country, and then in our product development, our marketing, and our administration, and what we really look for is skill and authenticity in whatever specific role that might presume. I'll give you the audio story. One of the things that we've done on an overarching basis is always look for skill, experience, and authenticity in the space that we're in. Obviously, Tom Kartsotis and his team from Fossil brought that with them in the watch category. We had to go out and develop it in leather, and the guys who are designing our leather products are started years ago at Gucci, went to Bergdorf Goodman, and then we designed all the leather for Tiffany. So when we brought them on, they're renowned in the fashion design space, particularly for handbags and accessories. And audio, we went out and brought a guy on board by the name of Alex Rawson. Alex started a company called Audeze, which is renowned for making some of the best quality headphones. Not the greatest necessarily design, but technically extremely well received by the audiophile community. So Alex sold his company, sold his stake in Audeze, and came to work for us. And he actually started a audio lab with some of the engineers and sound technicians in Los Angeles in the movie and music industries. And we actually have a Shinola audio lab out in LA. And so we look for those kinds of people who are not only incredibly talented in their areas of expertise, but also have authenticity in the space. Alex is known in that audiophile community. So when we go out to launch audio later this fall, we'll know two things. We'll know that we have the best technical expertise into the product, and we also know that we have some authenticity in the space by virtue of the people that we partner with, or that we bring on board. And what we hope to do is we grow that business, hopefully in the same trajectory as we've grown from 0 to 100 million here in the last few years, and we do that with our audio category, that opens up opportunities for people like Lawrence Tech students to get involved with new product development, with new challenges in the audio space as we try and figure out what to do with it with an iPhone with no headphone jack, and make sure that our product development is being responsive to the market, and we're going to need talented engineers to help us do that.
So that's what I think is best about Lawrence Tech is the students here, they have that technical background, but they also know how to solve problems. They can really figure things out. We'll jump to an audience question here. So it's about the city of Detroit. So how do you see the future of the entrepreneurial ecosystem of Detroit? Do you consider Detroit to be a better place to have a startup as opposed to other major cities?
Well, I don't think there's any question about that. I think it's one of the reasons Shinola is here. Tom could have built Shinola anywhere in the country. And matter of fact, as I mentioned before, he's from Dallas. He could have built Shinola right there. But one of the things that attracted him to Detroit was how fertile the environment was for startups. The barriers to entry are low. You see a lot of people, especially in the midtown and downtown areas where we are now, who are coming in, getting funding from various sources that are out there. It seems like there's a new venture fund that pops up almost every day around here, and it's such a diverse offering that those VC companies are looking into. From obviously technology, mobility, transportation are all huge, but also things like apparel and in our case, fashion products. You're seeing a lot of those folks start up downtown. In my old life at the Lions, I was involved with a partnership with the Techstars, who opened their offices in Ford Field and have had a tremendous success in sort of incubating a lot of these smaller startup projects, entrepreneurs who have great ideas, who need some support, not only financially, but also structurally and administratively, and the programs that are here in Detroit and the environment that's here in Detroit for those kinds of ventures is pretty special.
So what are some of the initiatives that Shinola has towards either underprivileged students or anybody just trying to look to get into innovation, entrepreneurship? I know I read a couple different things about like some pop-up shops where students are able to create some different works of art, and you'll be selling them. How's that work?
Well, we've done a number of different things. A lot of our partnerships have been with the College for Creative Studies because they're in our building. We're in their building, more accurately. Our factories are on the fifth floor, and we also occupy half the fourth floor of the Taubman Design Center, and that building of their campus. So we've done a lot of design partnerships with them. We've sponsored some of the curriculum. We've sponsored a fashion design curriculum at CCS. But we also look to partner with local entrepreneurs in every area where we do business. So we do it in Miami and Los Angeles, where we're going to open our fourth store soon. We do it here in Detroit, obviously. Everything from, as you mentioned, artists to flower shop. We've got a young woman who had a greenhouse startup, and we gave her space in the Shinola store to sell her offerings. It enhances, we think, the retail experience when people come in to see what our store is all about, what our products are all about, but it also helps her with a rent-free space. She doesn't have to pay us any commission. So we look to partner with those kinds of businesses. We look to invest when we're investing in a category that we call supply, the things that we don't produce but that add to our product offerings. We'll source those certainly domestically, but locally wherever we can, and try and partner with folks to accelerate their business as well.
So your guys' headquarters is pretty sweet from what I've heard. I haven't got to go down there yet, but I really want to make my way down there from the internet. So your first day going into the office, how cool was checking out that headquarters where that you can see the guys design the watch right in front of you?
Well, it's a pretty special place for a lot of different reasons, and I think you point out the biggest one, and that is the men and women who are making our products are right there. You know, I mentioned the chance that I got to walk around the factories even before I took the job, and you go around and you ask people, hey, what were you doing before you worked at Shinola? And you get, you know, everything from I was a part-time custodian to a security guard to pizza delivery guy, and that's probably one of my favorite stories, is because we have one of the guys on our watch line who's become a very, very good watchmaker, who literally was delivering pizzas before he started working at Shinola. And I didn't have an appreciation for what a big leap that was until I really realized that the folks in Switzerland take this industry very seriously, and as I mentioned earlier, pass it down from generation to generation. So when President Clinton was in town and toured our plant, he asked that guy who had presented him a watch. We had him present the watch to President Clinton, and he asked him that, and then President Clinton said, "Well, what can we do to help?" We said, "Why don't you give the president of Switzerland a watch?" And little did we know at the time it would cause an international incident when you said this watch that we're giving you was made by a pizza guy in Detroit, not a master Swiss watchmaker who's been doing this for generations. So,
Internationally brings up another good question asked by the audience. So, how do you guys plan on launching your business internationally, competing with foreign brands once you guys get out of the domestic market?
Yeah, that's a big challenge for us. We actually have international operations right now. We have a gentleman who runs a European, very small European. We've got some small wholesalers. We do have a store in London. We have an office in Hong Kong with about 6 or 7 people in it. All of our parts for the watches, most of our parts and other products are American, but our watches are Swiss movements, and the cases, the backs of the watches that hold the guts are primarily made in Hong Kong in the same factories that Tag Heuer's and Movado and Breitling's are all made. So even the Swiss brands have their cases milled and manufactured in Hong Kong. So we have an operation there, and we're launching a wholesale partnership with Isetan, the largest department store in Japan, next year. So it's a slow growth for us, but a very deliberate one, and one that we have to figure out the challenge as entrepreneurs, how we take a brand that's built on American craftsmanship and translate that into a global marketplace.
Let's jump back to your background a little bit. So you spent a lot of years at the University of Michigan getting 3 degrees. If you could go back and talk to your 20-year-old self right now, what would you say to him? And what kind of characteristics parallel to who you are today?
My 20-year-old self wouldn't have listened to my 46-year-old self. I think the characteristics that I think that I hopefully exhibited at 20, as opposed to the ones I know I exhibited that I don't care to anymore, are the willingness to just work and get involved in everything. I volunteered for a lot of things when I was at Michigan, both as an undergrad and in grad school, and just not have the fear of failure, just to go out and get involved in various projects, to do things that may have been a little bit out of the norm in terms of exploring new possibilities. Because in the course of doing that, I continue to learn, and as I see my daughters start to do some of those things, and the chances that they are taking in their lives and how that is benefiting them, I just think that the lessons you learn, whether you succeed or fail when you try those things, are only going to benefit you when the next opportunity, the next challenge comes up.
So you talked about your daughters a little bit. Who was your biggest influence when you were younger?
Oh, I was blessed to have a lot. I think my parents were clearly strong influences and continue to be. I was fortunate enough to be able to spend time at work with my dad, and matter of fact, even later in life, when I first started with the Lions, he and I had a chance to work together, and he still is active in the community. He's working for Mayor Duggan down in Detroit, doing economic development for him, and so seeing him get involved in a lot of different things was a great, and how he conducted himself with class and with integrity was something that really had been important to me. And then the people that I was fortunate to meet along the way, and both in school and in my early professional career, I had the chance to work for Bo Schembechler his last few years of coaching at Michigan, and then continue the friendship on beyond that. And he was a great mentor to me. And then just the men and women I've had a privilege to work with. I can learn something from people every day, particularly in this new role as I transition from my old life in sports to this in retail and manufacturing, the talent that we have at Shinola, the incredibly accomplished and smart people who teach me about the retail business on a daily basis.
So me and you talked about the transition a little bit before. So I want to talk to the audience about how that transition worked from going from sports management, which may seem like the complete opposite of watchmaking.
Well, the best part of the transition is there is no watch talk radio. So there's just, I don't have to worry about, nobody's second guessing whether we made the right kind of watch on Monday morning. But there are, as we were talking earlier, there are a lot more similarities than I think there are differences. There are the obvious sort of similarities in that every business has a profit and loss. You know, you've got a financial statement, you've got a balance sheet, you've got to know what moves those levers on your balance sheet and your income statement. But I think the biggest similarity for me was the customer experience. Whether you're having 65,000 people over for a football game on Sunday afternoon, or you're having thousands of people in our retail stores or on our website on a daily basis, it's about that customer experience. And in particular at Shinola, we aren't just a watch company or a leather company. Apparel companies talk about having a slice of your closet. We want a slice of your life. We want to be approachable. We want to be comfortable. We want to be high quality, and we want you to know that when you're having an experience with Shinola on our store, on our website, in a couple of years at our hotel, that it is an authentic, approachable, comfortable, but outstanding experience. So it really is about how you interact with your customers, how you treat them. And I think that was a big effort of ours at the Lions. You need to show a lot of respect for the people who are spending their hard-earned money on in your business and on your product. And that is an area where, as I said, there are a lot more similarities than there are differences.
It's kind of funny how you just talk about having 65,000 people come over to watch a football game at your place, like I'm having my buddies over or something like that.
Yeah, they weren't all my buddies, I can assure you.
A lot of critics. So how much customer input do you guys take in consideration when you're creating a new product?
Oh, a lot. We listen to our customers in a variety of different ways, not the least of which is, what are they buying? When we know that we'll make watches that people aren't going to like. We think we know, but we don't. And that applies for every single product that's out there. Whether it's an iPhone with no headphone jack, or whether it's a watch that somebody's putting on their wrist, they're going to vote first with their pocketbooks. But we do also a lot of research. We do a ton of customer feedback. We do focus groups. We do formal ones, informal ones. We have a group of consumers who interact with a group of our designers and marketers on a regular basis, and we really actively try and solicit feedback from our customers. And then the other thing we do is we forge relationships with other companies. We have very good relationships with the folks at Lululemon, at Bonobos, at some of these other, at Warby Parker, and we talk to them about what they're seeing. And so that especially those companies who really target the same customers that we do, and we know a lot about our customers through research and data that's available to us, and we know that we know other brands that our Shinola customers like to shop. So being able to create those kinds of relationships and share information about emerging trends in what people want, what they're consuming, what they're comfortable with, all helps inform our development decisions.
That's one of the biggest things we preach about with EMPwr, is that there was a quote that went something like, your idea is just an opinion until you actually get out of the office. So until you start realizing what your customer base wants, that's what's going to drive your product. There's
no question about it. I mean, you can have the greatest idea in the world. If nobody wants it, it's not a business. It's something you built in your basement that that's going to stay there and collect dust. So you have to be responsive, but you also have to lead. I think you can lead through innovation and design too. There are things that people don't know that they want. And the other thing we tell ourselves is we don't make anything, we don't sell anything that anybody needs. We don't sell, food, shelter, water, air. It's an option on whether you buy one of our bikes or our watches or our bags. So we have to make sure that that we earn your buying decision.
So how do you, like, when you assess risk, when kind of looking at that with your customers, how do you know what's a good risk to go after in terms of changing a design or changing a product? I don't know if you've had a ton of experience with that, with the watches itself.
We have, in that we've started to, now that we've been in really 3 sales cycles, 3 years of operations, we're starting to, you learn more every season. But we also really preach the need to fail fast. We can try different things, and if it's not working, if a watch isn't selling today, there's a pretty good chance it's not going to sell tomorrow. And you've got to have an eye towards how things are working or not working. And when they're not working, the best thing to do is to fail fast so that we can go succeed in other areas more rapidly.
Got another question from the audience. They said, it seems like everybody has an idea, that most of them don't reach the market, typically due to funding. It's a possibility. So how would you, what would be your opinion on where to get funding from for different startup projects?
There's just so many different programs now. It depends on what it is. I think you start with the area that your idea, your innovation is in, and you look at some of those the startup venture capital type private equity funds that are out there, and they're growing. As I said earlier, they seem to be adding a fund in the Detroit area almost every day or every week. So you look at those different funds, whether it's and I know a new sports one just started in Detroit. There's a number of different ones in the mobility space, and doing some investigation into those, and then finding out what some of their requirements are for application. And then the other thing that I think gets overlooked sometimes is the tremendously robust foundation environment we have here in Detroit, with things like the Kresge Foundation, who's actually an investor in our company. And they now are getting more and more dynamic in terms of their corpuses and how they invest those. It's not just giving away grants to worthy philanthropic endeavors. They're looking to invest in businesses that can grow their capital in addition to providing a benefit to the community.
So those of you, so whoever asked that question, you guys should join EMPwr, because we'll teach you how to do that, all right? So a lot of companies, there are some places that I've worked for, when we're starting to come up with works of innovation or coming up with new ideas, a lot of it is like frowned upon. Most people don't really want to put in the extra work. How does Shinola breed their employees to think a little bit differently? How do they accept that? Is that just the people you guys hire? Is that just the way you guys go about it?
Well, Tom Kartsotis, our founder, talks a lot about the hand-to-hand combat necessary, that you can have a good idea, you can have funding, but if you don't really work at the nuts and bolts of what you're doing, your chances for succeeding go down exponentially. When they started Fossil, and even when Shinola started, it was a lot of battling on the ground, hand-to-hand combat, as he says. A tremendous amount of word of mouth. I'll go to a city where we have a store, and I'll call our folks down there. I'll go to Washington, D.C. as an example for a couple days, and they'll book me from dawn till dusk with various community leaders, and we'll tell the Shinola story, talk to them about what we're trying to do, and really build that word of mouth. It's not about big marketing campaigns. It's not about the flash and the sizzle all the time. It's about that personal connection and being able to tell your story and show them your product and let them put their hands on it and let them know what you're doing. And that's how we've really built the kind of brand heat that we have.
So they've really put you to work for these first couple months, huh?
There's no doubt. It's a whole different deal.
So when you first joined, what were some things you did to refocus the team? Or maybe the team didn't even need refocusing, but are there any things you changed or removed or just kept everything the same?
No, I think, look, I work with a ton of really accomplished and intelligent people who candidly know more about the retail business than I do. So part of what I have to do is learn. Part of what I have to do is apply my experience. When I started with the Lions in 1995, we had 50 employees who weren't players. When I left, we had close to 400. We started somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 new companies while I was there, whether that was a concert promotion business, a parking company, a real estate development company, stadium operations arm. We did a lot of building while we were there, so I have a lot of experience with a company growing and what it means to have the infrastructure to do $100 million versus $200 million versus $300 million, and what it takes in systems to get there. At the end of the day, it's all about working together as a team, and that's really where I can come in and learn from our folks, see where where our strengths and weaknesses are, try and bring them together to leverage the strengths, and then look at opportunities that we have to improve our weaknesses.
So so most people don't really think about it with a football organization, that it's like a lot of different startups that are coming out of it. What was one of the more challenging ones that you dealt with, and how did you get over that?
Well, I think, for us, it was, when I was at the Lions, everything was so different in terms of the businesses we were getting into. When we built Ford Field and had 250,000 square feet of office and other retail space that we had to lease out, that was a completely different business model, completely different way of thinking. Could have easily become a distraction from some of the other things we had to do, focusing on the football team. But we didn't let that happen. You have to get the kind of people, again, similar to Shinola, get the people when you're going into a new business, get those people who are accomplished, who are experienced, who understand that world, and leverage those skills, but all in a way that is complementary to the team.
So what do you do daily to keep yourself sharp? I know you have a busy schedule. Are there certain things you do every day? Do you read certain magazines? Do you have subscriptions to things, or do you like working out? What is it that works for you?
Yeah, despite the way I might look, I actually do enjoy working out. I did that. That became natural at the Lions. It was easy. I'm an early morning guy, so I get up. I used to get up around 3:30. Now it's about 4:30, so I get an extra hour of sleep now that I'm getting older. And I work out every morning, and again, at the Lions, it was easy because I literally, my closet was down at the stadium. I just drive down in my sweats and work out and get to my desk by 7 or 7:30. Here at Shinola, it's a little bit different. I've got a place near my house where I work out in the mornings. I love to read, and I meditate. I think that's a calming, centering kind of exercise for me that helps slow things down and clear my mind. And then the last thing is trying to keep a balance and spending. That's one of the great things about being at Shinola is the ability to balance. Having fall weekends available for the first time in 20 years is really a cool thing to be able to spend time with my wife and kids.
So the next question I was going to bring up to you was the work-life balance. For young students coming out, I mean, we're doing homework from morning to night. We're studying. A lot of students here are working as well as being on campus. What would be your best advice for students for the work-life balance? A lot of the people that I've talked to say that we should be starting in the morning, and we shouldn't be done working until we're falling asleep.
Yeah, and I'm a believer that you ought to be doing something when you're awake. Don't. We only have so many hours on this earth. We might as well take advantage of all of them. But what I would also say to you is that the balance is important. We are not what we do. We are who we are. And so sometimes I think in business, in academics, in our pursuits of what is important to us professionally, we lose sight of the fact that we are not our profession. And that as we try and climb the ladder, we start to think that we're ladder climbers, and we're not. We're human beings that need to be well-rounded. You need to take time for yourself. And so while you're busy during those waking hours, take time to learn, to read, to work out, to do whatever is important to you, whatever gives you fulfillment outside of what you're chasing professionally. because a lot of times I've heard too many stories and I've had too many experiences of my own where you chase something professionally that you think is the golden ring, and you get there and you realize that it was not all it's cracked up to be, and you may have accomplished your goal, but your fulfillment is elusive. And the more you can do as a whole person, I think the better off each of us is.
And I think that's important that you guys treat your employees with the utmost respect and treat them almost at they're at a high level.
Oh, I mean, look, we're sort of a very horizontal organization. We don't have offices. We all sit. Our management team sits at some drafting tables in the corner of the factory floor. So it's very approachable. I'm a firm believer that no one person in the organization is any more important than the other. I can learn as much from the man or woman making watches or cutting our leather straps as I can from our CFO. It may be a different topic, different subject, but they can teach me a heck of a lot more in a lot of ways than I can teach them.
So a lot of the movement where all the young students are going and young professionals is these new progressive companies like Google with a relaxed, laid-back kind of work environment. Is that the kind of way it's at Shinola?
Oh, I don't know that we're laid back, but I think what I would look for in a company, what we try and be as a company, is somebody who treats all of their partners and coworkers, with colleagues, with respect, and understands that there is more to life than making watches or leather. There's more to life than putting together a football team and playing on Sunday afternoons. There's more to life, to use the Google example, than a search engine or a self-driving car. You have to really, if you say you believe in the whole person and the integrity and the value that people bring to our company, then we have to treat them that way. And I think we do that. I think the fact that we've created these high-quality manufacturing jobs is a start, but how we treat them day in and day out is what's really going to matter.
For the employees, a lot of companies now are giving them a break, like 20% of their time they can be spent on coming up with their own innovation product or something on their own. Is there something like that at Shinola?
We don't have anything formal like that, but we certainly encourage people to come up with different ideas and to stretch themselves. We have a lot of folks. I'm an example. I'm not a traditional CEO hire for I was teasing my wife after I got this job, and they sent out the announcement that I'm one of the few people who've probably been in Sports Illustrated and Women's Wear Daily, and that comes with a little bit of questioning and a lot of faith from the people that own our company, our board of directors, that it's the type of person and the skills that he or she has more so than necessarily their background or what the ticks on the resume look like.
Yeah, I think that's really important to give them some time to do something else. There's another good question by the audience. Do you think that you could teach entrepreneurship classes?
I think I could learn a lot from an entrepreneurship class. I'm a believer that you can, as I've said a couple times, you can learn from anybody. Whether I could actually teach a class and keep people from falling asleep on a daily basis, I don't know. But I have had the opportunity to do some teaching on a shorter term basis at some places, and I've really enjoyed that experience.
So as some students advance in some of their projects, some of them start having initiatives. They want to come up with things in the world. We all think we can solve the world's problems while you're in college. And then we have some projects and different things that we want to do at school. What would be the advice you would give for the pushback that you might get from faculty, you might get from other students? How does that compare to positions that you've been in where you've gotten pushback?
I think if you really believe in what it is you're doing, then pushback can only be seen as healthy. You can take what's useful and leave the rest behind. If the pushback is coming from a valid place, then there's probably something in there you can learn. If it's not, if it's just coming because it's pushback and they want to be contrarian or obstructionist, then ignore it and leave it aside. But you'll know that based on how strongly you feel about your ideas and your passion and your pursuit.
Let's go back to Detroit for a little bit. You've had a lot of time spent in Detroit. You work on a lot of the boards. Was it important for you that Shinola is based in Detroit? Is that one of the biggest reasons that you went there? how much have you done in Detroit? What else that we couldn't find on the internet that you've been involved in?
Thankfully, there's a lot that you can't find on the internet. But no, it was important to me. This community is important to me. I grew up here. I feel a real kinship with our story, with our people. We are a unique place. I've had the opportunity to travel a lot around the country and around the world, and I don't think there's anything quite like our town and our city. And so after I got fired last year from the Lions and had an opportunity to stick around in sports in some way, shape, or fashion, almost every one of those opportunities, really every one of them, would have required me to leave. And for the first time in my lifetime, I really see a trajectory and an energy in our city that's really special. And I wanted to try and find a way to continue to be a small part of that. And the opportunity at Shinola, I think, couldn't be more perfect from that perspective. It's a company that embodies a lot of what we have in the city, a lot of that passion and work ethic, and the values that we have as a community. And hopefully, we're helping tell a good story as we take Shinola products around the world and around the country. And then the last thing is we had a bunch of these Dallas people, and we got a bunch of people from the guy that runs our merchandising ran Converse in Europe, and another guy from Texas that was running all the Ralph Lauren stores, and so we got all these outsiders, and they needed somebody from Detroit that could teach them what's what around here.
What's it like to work alongside guys like Dan Gilbert, the Illich family, and a couple other the Penskes? What's it like to be with those guys in a room?
It's great because Roger Penske's another person who's really been a great influence on me. I had the privilege of working with Roger when we brought the Super Bowl to Detroit in 2006. You learn a lot about integrity, about work ethic. I don't think there's anybody that I've met that works harder than Roger Penske at 76 years old or whatever he is. I was getting calls from him at 3 in the morning. I was getting calls from him at midnight, sometimes on the same night at midnight and 3 in the morning. And the people who work with him will tell those stories over and over again, where you'll get a call at 2 in the morning and say, show up at the airport, we're headed to Germany. And so you learn work ethic. You also learn a commitment. And each of those folks that you mentioned, the Penskes, the Illiches, the Gilberts, and I certainly would throw in the Ford family at the top of that list, have a real love for our city, and they not only love the city and love the community, but they put their money where their mouth is. And each of those individuals and families have invested a ton of time, of energy, and of financial resources into making our city and our community a better place.
So do you think the products that Shinola comes up with are a direct result of what the city wants or city needs, or is it more, just customers, or does the city have a big influence on your products?
Well, I think the city has a huge influence on the products because the people of the city are the ones who put them together and build them. And it is American manufacturing, and I don't think there's any better place for American manufacturing than Detroit. And I think our history shows that, whether it's the Model T or the Arsenal of Democracy or the performance cars that started winning 24 hours at Le Mans. That we have had technical innovation in our blood. We have had quality craftsmanship and manufacturing in our blood for decades. So that, in some ways, it goes into every one of our products. But in some other ways, we're trying to build a business. We're trying to sell the best watches and leather and bikes and those to as many people as we can and get them exposed to quality craftsmanship and manufacturing that comes from the United States.
So how do we get the word out to other CEOs that profit isn't the number one thing? I think you do it by example. I think when you look at how a lot of corporations are evolving, you see the ones that are I think that I would call the smartest corporations realizing what their customers want. And people are increasingly concerned about where their products come from. It's farm to table. I want to know where my food was grown. I want to know where my products were made. I want to know the quality of the jobs that are involved in those companies. And I think that we're seeing, as consumers, more and more sophistication, more and more intelligence,
and more discernment, and we like that. So it really is those companies that are responsive to the emerging trends and the people that they're relying on to be the backbone of their sales, and then also I think it's having the kind of dialogue that we have in our community and as well as in the business community with other like-minded companies that are doing great things.
Yeah, I think it's very important that we bring manufacturing back into America.
No question.
How do you decide as a CEO which new directives that you should implement to ensure that your companies will grow?
Well, we know we're going to chase some things down some rabbit holes now. And I mentioned failing fast. You're never going to hit everything perfectly, but I think you got to be willing to take the chances. That's that entrepreneurial spirit. We will. I can give you a sneak preview, but not too distant future. I think we'll be in Whole Foods selling Shinola Cola. It was we developed Shinola Cola together with some folks at Fago here locally, and it was something we were just going to serve in our stores and just have as a little talking item. And now it looks like it actually could be a decent business for us. Maybe not so much in the profits from the sale of soda, but definitely in terms of getting that word out about Shinola and have people. We're kind of a crazy idea company. It's like, what are they doing next? They're building a hotel. They're coming out with turntables. They've got a cult. What are these guys doing? And we like that. We like that. That sort of our founder calls it the what the F moments. And I think and we like those things because that generates that conversation. And when we can raise the level of awareness, we know we can get you with our quality.
I think curiosity has a big impact in that and how your employees, and it's one of our core values is curiosity towards having that entrepreneurial mindset.
No question.
So we got a couple minutes left. What watch are you wearing there?
This is actually one that was the forerunner to what we call the Black Blizzard, which is our titanium kind of sport watch. And which one are you wearing there?
It's not a Shinola yet.
I noticed.
I'm still in college. So is that your favorite product, or what is your favorite product that you guys have on the market or potentially coming out?
It's tough. It really is, and I say this because I get a chance to be around these great designers and these great product development folks every day and look at some of the cool things they come up with. We have a great dive watch that's coming out next year, and it's going to be kind of a cool story because it'll be the first. You got Tag Heuer's, built their business on dive watches, and Rolex with its Submariner, it's just famous. But they're all ocean dive watches. So we're gonna have the first Great Lakes dive watch that'll come out next year, which should be really cool. And then our new product categories. Every time our turntable is absolutely gorgeous, and it is going to be it's great craftsmanship, tremendously cool, big wood base. So I really am enamored with what our designers come up with and how everything fits together. Everything has a certain design language at Shinola that speaks to the quality, the authenticity, and the craftsmanship of what we do.
So we got like 2 minutes here left. So I'm going to ask you one last question. If you could leave a lasting impact on the students here and give them one last piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, that's a tough one. I thought you were going to ask me if Calvin Johnson was going to win Dancing with the Stars. I really do think that the one thing I would say is don't be afraid to chase a good idea. Don't be afraid to fail. On the other side of failure is just an opportunity to succeed and learn from that failure. But also, as you're doing that, don't forget that we're all part of a bigger community. We all have we all have a role to play, not only in the professional lives that we chase, but we have a role to play in the lives of everybody else in our communities and the world we live in.
Well, Tom, thanks for coming out tonight. It was very enlightening to hear what you've got to say and of all the cool new things that Shinola is coming with.
Appreciate it, Justin. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.